What's up, people? I'm Shaggy, the Opinionated Hippie, and this is the final part of my reviewing and ranking all of Prince's studio albums. This is the 2010s, his last 5 albums that he put out studio-wise during his lifetime. Since this is the end of the list, I will rank these 5 according to themselves, and then at the very end, I will drop the complete list of my rankings of all 40 Prince studio albums. How did we get to Prince from Zappa? Prince was a secret word, at least once in 88. I think he was a secret word in 84, too. I'm assuming in the Minneapolis era, Minnesota in 84, somewhere up there. But I don't know. I know he was a secret word. So anyways, his name, Prince. Yeah, but that's it. I'm going to go 5-1, put the list up, then I'll drop all 40 at the end. All right, on to number 5. Number 5 is his 37th studio album, Artificial Age, which came out in 2014. Not a bad album, but kind of forgettable. One of my main notes when I was listening to this, and every time I listen to this, is there's some really kind of tight funk on here, kind of some really nice grooves and jams that I think would feel just a little more real if there was a real drummer. A lot of this is electronic, a lot of this is drum machine, and there are a number of songs where I think if you just had like a real drummer in there, giving it some really like tight James Brown funk beats and like maybe being a little bit looser than the drum machine. I think some of these songs maybe breathe a little more life into them. It's kind of a slow album, or at least there's a lot of sort of like mid-tempo tracks. There's some nice horns throughout it. There are some good funk pop grooves, but like I don't know if anything really like I'm walking away from this album with anything like really memorable. There's one song on here that I think is really good called Funk and Roll. It's kind of starts off with this big sound, but then doesn't really go into like a hard funk and roll, but it's kind of a weird funk arty. Prince is in his falsetto voice for a lot of it. It's funky, but it's also really strange and kind of all over the map and a little bit different, maybe like art funk, if that's a thing. And I think simply by being different, it kind of stands out from everything else on this album. There's also a couple tracks where all of a sudden in like the last half of the album, you have this like female voice doing this narration. And it's not quite like a robotic computer voice. It kind of reminds me of like maybe like it might have been inspired by that movie Her with Joaquin Phoenix. And I think it's Joaquin Phoenix, right? And Scarlett Johansson. Which a computer voice, but it has warmth to it and sort of an allure to it. Yeah, so that it's kind of that vibe, and it just comes in towards the end of the album out of nowhere. It's kind of weird. But yeah, I don't know, it's just kind of forgettable. Some slow jams, some like horns come in, very electronic sound. Yeah, I don't know. I don't really have much to say of it. I think that there's one song on here that really, really stands out. It's Funk and Roll. Other than that, it's just kind of a late period Prince album in which he's doing all the things he does, but it's just lacking, I don't know, an inspiring sort of reason behind it or a unifying theme throughout the album, or I don't know. It's lacking something. Not a bad album. When I'm listening to it, I'm not going, oh my gosh, this is horrible. But when I'm done, I'm like, oh, okay, that was interesting. One kind of really good song. But yeah, that would be number 5, Artificial Age. Number 4 is his 35th album, 2010. Came out in 2010. This kind of feels like maybe he's trying to evoke sort of a Prince 70s, early 80s vibe. It's very synth poppy. Another one in which I think if there were real drums more often instead of electronic drums, I don't have anything against drum machines or electronic drums just because, but I think these songs would have a little more life and a little more funk in them and a little more just bounce. If there was a real drummer, like give the real drummer some, like pay him and let him play the drums. As it is, I think this one's slightly more interesting than Artificial Age, especially The grooves are nice, so if the song goes on long enough, it becomes almost like this, like, hypnotic dance rhythm type thing where you're just kind of you're pulled into the beats. And I do like sort of the callback to the slightly earlier synthier sound of his first couple albums. I think it's fantastic. Two really good songs on here. The second song, Beginning Endlessly, almost has like this techno funk vibe, maybe a little bit of a heavier machine-like groove to it that I think actually works. And then another song, Act of God, which is just some really nice funky upbeat pop. Get a Saddam Hussein reference, like we're really dating ourselves here. But this is 2010. We're getting a Saddam Hussein reference. Just a really good song. The rest of the stuff is just like some good upbeat funk pop. It's Prince doing what Prince does. Got some slow jams, some upbeat jams, some nice grooves. Two songs jump out at me, which is why this is number 4 at number 5. But I think song to song to song, it just maybe flows a little bit better than Artificial Age, but I can't say there's anything too spectacular about it. I do like their sort of, I guess, the simplicity of it. I don't think there's any narration that seeps in at any point in time. Things don't get too arty or too weird, though the grooves are kind of cool. Maybe a little more of a straightforward Prince at this point, but it kind of works. It's a good listen. Not anything that I'm going to walk away with saying you have to hear this, but it's not bad, which, at least we got more Prince out there. But that's my number 4, 2010. Number 3 is Plectrum Electrum, his 36th studio album. This actually came out the exact same day, I'm not mistaken, the exact same time as Artificial Age. And this is his guitar, rock, funk, heavy band album release to sort of couple the more like funky dance pop electronic version of Artificial Age. And this is with his backing band, Third Eye Girl, which apparently is an all-female band. And this is a guitar album. This is like a funk rock album. This is Prince getting as close to rock and roll as he will get. A lot of really good guitar energy in it. Fun, loose, jammy, but jammy and like there's just a lot of guitar, some great guitar solos. He's not the only one who sings. There's some of the female vocalists from the band sing. I think they also play some guitar. So Prince is like very much a member of a band here. And I think it's got some really, really good, fun energy. And it's sonically quite a bit different than the other 2 albums just because of the instrumentation and what Prince is trying to do. So I think that makes it a little more interesting. Couple really good songs on here. Boy Trouble, which has Lizzo in it. I think Lizzo dropped some really nice bars in here. Has this really bass-driven energy. Kind of sounds like a typical Prince song, but the energy is really good. Really nice funk pop. Not one of the rockier songs on here, but it definitely sounds like Prince. The highlight of the album is probably a song called Another Love, which has this sort of playful, sort of fast to slow, back and forth type vibe about it. Really nice guitar solo at the end and just shredding. A lot of shredding on this album. If you like just random shredding for no reason, there's a lot of good funk, rock, pop shredding dropped in here. Song called Stop This Train, which is not Stop That Train, the reggae classic. You got some generics, kind of slower R&B stuff. It is Prince. So even though like we start off with some hard guitar rock energy throughout the early tracks, eventually we do seep into more like Prince balladry or Prince just non-rock pop funk like Boy Trouble, which maybe could be on another album and still work really well. Really nice instrumental on here. Very nice sort of, kind of sounds like a slow version. The title track, Plectrum Electrum, kind of sounds like a really slow version of Zeppelin's. I think it's The Ocean, where The Ocean is like dun 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 dun. This one is like boom 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 no no, just like a really slow kind of Zeppelin-esque stomp, but with lots of guitar and lots of Prince slight funk energy seeping in there. Some nice rocker. What is it? Fix Your Life Up has this nice dun like kind of start-stop energy in the beginning. Yeah, it's a fun album. The last song is Funk and Roll, which was on the previous album, right? It's on the one we just talked about, or was it on? No, it's on the companion one, Artificial Age. That one on Artificial Age is probably a better version. It's weirder, more eclectic. I think it's more experimental Prince. This is a little more straightforward, higher energy, just tighter wound version of funk and roll. But yeah, sorry for coughing. But yeah, it's not a bad listen. In fact, I think it was listening to these in order. I did listen to Artificial Age first, even though they came out on the same day. And I think this was just something refreshing about this, to hear Prince doing this kind of energy again. Not the greatest, not the best rock album, not the best Prince album, not the best guitar funk album, but there's some good stuff on here. And it was a fun listen. So anyways, that's my number 3, Plectrum Electrum. Number 2 is his last officially released while he was alive studio album. This is Hit Run Phase 2. Hit and Run Phase 2. We now know where Hit and Run Phase 1 is going to end up on this list. Came out at the end of 2015. I had this one above Hit and Run Phase 1 in my mind until recently, when I was like, okay, they're both really good, but I think there's something a little more eclectic about the first one. This one is pretty much just a solid, straightforward, almost like a simplified, no nonsense, great pop hooks, great lyrics throughout, some really good use of horns, a number of great tunes on here. I really, really like this album. I think this was a strong ending. I'm not sure where it's going to rank in the overall catalog of Prince's history, but I don't think this is a bad album. Starts off with a song called Baltimore, which is just a nice, kind of concise, low-key, catchy pop song. Something along the line of maybe like Strange Relationship, or maybe not, I don't know, but just something like that, where it's catchy and pop and not too eccentric, but still feels like Prince. It's about Baltimore, Freddie Gray. And the ending is like this. It's about, things going wrong in America and focusing on Baltimore and the East Coast, and then, or even the Midwest. And then at some point at the very end, like this voice comes in, like over like a police radio, go, "We have a situation in Los Angeles," which is kind of powerful, because you're like, oh yeah, we've been talking about all the problems on the East Coast in the States, but yeah, there's also stuff going down on the West Coast. So I don't know. I like it. I think it's a good opener. Prince is getting political, but he's not getting too over the top, keeping things simple and heartfelt, and just kind of getting to the root of the problems in a good way. And the rest of the album just has some really good horns, some really good pop energy. Rock and Roll Love Affair has almost like this Tom Petty type storytelling thing with like a she and a he, and you can almost see this being a Tom Petty song lyrically. 2Y 2D, Too Young to Dare, has some great lyrics. Her legs so long she never climbs stairs. I know, I like that. Just some really good simple pop rock on here. What else is a really good song? Extra Lovable. The horns in Extra Lovable are absolutely fantastic. That one has a line, it's about a girl, and she's got a dozen tricks that some cities in the U.S. won't even allow, man. Groovy Potential, nice slow ballad jam with some nice horns that slowly kind of just gets funkier and groovier as the song goes on. At the end, you got this even awesome, better horn drop coming in, one of the highlights of the album. Screwdriver is probably one of the heaviest songs on this album. I think You Be the Driver, I'll Be Your Driver, You'll Be the Screw, something like that. Some weird lyrics there. This one almost has like a Outfield Your Love feel to it, just like a simple guitar based like pop rock song, but it's not like too heavy. It's just kind of like keeping it simple, but letting the guitar drive the energy. Black Muse, absolutely beautiful, nice funky pop song, some nice jazz piano flavors throughout. Yeah, just really good. Big City has some nice good horn party energy to end it. Yeah, I really, really enjoy this album. I think it's really good. Maybe a little bit long. I know I've complained about that before, not because I have a short attention span, but simply because some of the songs I don't think are that strong. And if you drop them, the album becomes stronger by virtue of things not being there. But anyways, it's still a really good album, and I would put it at my number 2. in this era, decade, 2010s, which means number one is. And my number one album of Prince in the 2010s is Hit and Run Phase 1. This came out in September of 2015, so a couple months, 3 months before Hit and Run Phase 2, his second to last officially released studio album. I have 40 in my final list because I'm doing that Rave Into remix album, but he did only release 39 in his life, if you don't count that remix album. This album starts off with him sampling himself. I think he samples both 1999 and Little Red Corvette, which I'm not a fan of. I don't like when he did that. He's done that on another album. Not those two songs. I think one of those two songs. I don't need that. But from there on out, it's a fun album. $1 Million Show is like just straight up opening. Like, hey, like welcome to the $1 Million Show. Everybody sing along. It's this really fun, upbeat song. And then the rest of the album is just kind of some really good electro, techno, pop, funk energy. And the first half of the album, I think, is a little more party, a lot of good energy, a lot of upbeat songs. And then we start to get to some absolutely fantastic stuff in the second half of the album. What is this? Shut This Down is like the opening mantra. It's like, we come to shut this down. Like that's the attitude of this album early on. But then we get to the middle. We get to this song, Like a Mac, which is featuring Curly Fries, and Curly Fries drops some awesome bars in the middle, some great lines from her, really nice, fun song, some nice horns, really funky horn energy in a lot of this album. Fall in Love Tonight should be a hit song. Fall in Love Tonight has a hook. It's catchy electronic pop. I don't know if anybody listens to Spotify, but over Memorial Day weekend, we took this long road trip and we had Spotify has this DJ on it, where if you play the DJ, I think his name's Xavier, right? But he's like, he takes your whole listening thing and then he puts it into like little blocks. Like, I've noticed you've been listening to some reggae, so here are some other reggae songs. Well, if this should be on there. This sounds like one of those songs. One of the blocks he does is like, I've heard you've been listening to some modern pop. Here are some great hits. They're going to make your summer fun. Fall in Love Tonight is just hook. It is a hit. It should be huge. Was it huge? Was it a hit? I don't know. Wasn't listening to Radio Prince. It was a single. Okay, it should be a single. It's a great, great song. I love this song. The rest of the album, there's a song called Hard Rock Lover, which has some nice screaming guitar, some nice screaming Prince, some really good guitar funk energy, kind of a steamy song. And then that goes right into a song called Mr. Nelson, which is kind of just like a mostly instrumental song with like some lyrics shouted out every so often. Almost has a Santana dance groove in it for a while, but really, really nice, good energy on there. Yeah, we get some cool synth stuff. And then the closing song, June, this nice little like piano slow jam ballad about the pasta. Must be the pasta. Must be the pasta, because it's boiling on the stove, or it's boiling on the stove, it's heating up on the stove. But it's this nice, just simple song about June. And it's June when I'm making this, so maybe that's why I love this album more than the others at this point. But yeah, this is a really good album. It's a little eclectic in all the best Prince ways. We got some good ballads. We got some classic pop songs. We got some funk jams. We're going to shut this down. Starts off in a way that's a little off-putting. I don't want to hear Prince sampling himself. I don't need a reminder of his past glory days. But I think he kind of brings the energy, and like the heart and everything's in the right place on this one. And this is a fun album. These last two, I'm not going to say he went out on top, but I definitely think he went out satisfying hardcore Prince fans with both Hit and Run Phase 1 and Phase 2. But my number one would be Phase 1. And that's what those five look like right there. Bottom two, clearly bottom two. The middle one, clearly middle. The top two, maybe even interchangeable. The top two, I think, are kind of strong. So now let's go through all of them. I have 40 because I have that remix album. So let's do them 10 at a time. There's what I would say are the bottom 10. A lot of sort of weird, I'm not going to go into each one. I did that on separate videos, but that's what they look like. Yeah, you know, a lot of the ones at the bottom, just kind of interesting attempts to do something different, acoustic or solo or a heavy guitar or just something that just doesn't work out. And music from Graffiti Bridge, Falling Quite Low. I'm not the biggest fan of that album. I know other people are, so sorry. Um, the next 10 is where this era, the one I just made the video of, maxes out. As good as I think Hit and Run Phase 1 and Phase 2 are, they're not even top 20, at least what I would think. Black Album following back down there. I think that's overrated at this point in time. Still some good stuff on here, but that just shows how deep and awesome Prince's discography is. The next 10, where we're starting to get some really good stuff on here. Lotus Flower, surprisingly strong, sort of 2000s release. Some of his early stuff, For You's on there. I'm not a big Love Sexy fan. That's why that drops down to 20. I still recognize it's a good Prince album, but something about Love Sexy I've never really engaged with. I've always thought it was disappointing. Those are those 10. The bottom 5 of the top 10, where we're getting to absolutely fantastic stuff. Diamonds and Pearls, fantastic. Love Symbol, great. Crystal Ball, underrated, overlooked, absolutely masterclass in just overindulgence, fantastic. Dirty Mind, Around the World Today, Prince at his just best, which means my top 5 Prince albums are those right there. 2 early ones, and then 3 smack dab in the middle of the 80s. Fantastic stuff. Right, Sign of the Times was the 80s, right? That wasn't the 90s, was it? Yeah, 87. Yeah, so that's what my list looks like. Altogether, it looks like that. So there we go. Yeah, that's what I think of this massive discography by a truly one-of-a-kind artist. But anyways, thanks for watching. Let me know what I got wrong, what albums I should reconsider, should drop lower, should raise higher, thoughts on Prince, all that kind of stuff. I'll tackle his live albums in a week or so. Yeah, and we're not done with Prince yet, and some songs. My favorite songs coming up, but that'll be later this week or so. Anyways, thanks for watching. Subscribe, like, share, comment, do all those things, and go listen to Prince, man. Go listen to that recent Prince. If you don't know Hit and Run Phase, check it out, because it's in my 20s, but it's still Prince, and it's still pretty good, and there's some good stuff on there. All right, thanks for watching. Peace. Talk to you later.